I never believed in hospital ghost stories. Every hospital has them. The abandoned wing, the elevator that opens to a closed floor, the patient who died but still calls the nurse's station. Most of it is just stress. Night shift messes with your head, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, monitors beeping in irregular rhythms, the smell of antiseptic soaked into everything. I've worked nights for 3 years now. You get used to the silence between emergencies. You get used to the way the building creaks when it cools. You even get used to walking down long corridors at 3:12 a.m. when the world outside is asleep. But there's one thing I've never gotten used to. Room 417. 417 isn't on any special unit, just general medical. 4th floor, end of the hallway. Near the window that looks out over the parking garage. Nothing unusual about it, except for the patient. He's been admitted longer than anyone else. Officially, he's in a coma. No family visits, no discharge plans, no improvement, no decline, just there. Every shift, I check his vitals. Heart rate stable, oxygen stable, blood pressure normal. He's not hooked to anything dramatic, just quiet monitors glowing green in the dark. He looks ordinary, mid-30s, dark hair, pale skin from months indoors. But here's the thing, his chart never changes. I mean, never. No new notes, no physician updates, no medication adjustments. When I asked one of the older nurses about it, she shrugged. He's been like that since before I transferred here. How long? She paused. Long enough? The first time something felt wrong was around 2:40 a.m. The floor was quiet. No admissions, no codes, no call lights. I was charting at the nurse's station when I heard it. A faint sound, like someone clearing their throat. It came from the direction of 417. I froze. His door was partially open. The lights inside were off except for the monitor glow. I told myself it was nothing. Ventilation, the building settling. I stood up anyway. When I stepped into the room, the air felt colder than the hallway. The monitor beeped steadily. He lay there exactly the same. Eyes closed, hands folded over his stomach. I moved closer, checked his pupils, unresponsive. I leaned in to adjust his blanket. That's when I heard it again, a whisper, right next to my ear. Don't! I jumped back so hard I hit the IV pole. The monitor spiked briefly from the motion, but he hadn't moved. His lips were still, his eyes still closed. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my temples. I checked the hallway, empty. I checked the room, nothing. I convinced myself I imagined it. Night shift fatigue, auditory hallucinations aren't uncommon after long hours. I went back to charting, but I avoided looking down the hallway. Around 3:15 a.m., the call light above 417's door turned on. Bright red. I stared at it. He can't press the button. He's been unresponsive for months. I walked down slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I entered, the room looked normal, except the call button was resting on his chest, perfectly centered, like someone had placed it there. My throat went dry. I stepped closer. His hand twitched, just slightly. I froze. It could be reflex. Muscle activity happens. I leaned in again, and this time, his eyes were open, not wide, not dramatic, just open, looking straight at me. His pupils were dilated, completely black. He didn't blink, didn't move, just stared. The monitor began to beep faster. My pulse matched it. I whispered, "Can you hear me?" His lips parted, just barely, and in a voice that didn't sound like it belonged to someone who hadn't spoken in months, he said, "You're not supposed to remind me." Then his eyes closed again, flat, still. The monitor returned to normal. I stood there for a long time, just listening to the fluorescent lights hum. "In the morning," I told the day nurse. She frowned. "His eyes are always closed." "No," I said. "They were open." She checked him. Pupils unresponsive, eyes shut. She gave me a look. "You need sleep." I checked his chart again before I left. No note about eye movement, no record of speech, nothing, like it never happened. But when I signed out, I noticed something new. A handwritten line at the bottom of his chart, in ink, not typed. It wasn't there before. It read, "Still waiting." And it was signed with my name. I didn't write it. I tried to forget about 417. I really did. But when you work the same floor every night, you don't get to avoid things. 3 nights later, I was back. The hospital always feels different after midnight. Daytime energy disappears, no visitors, no overhead announcements, just the distant wail of ambulances and the hum of machines. The hallway lights dim automatically at 1 a.m. They flicker once before settling into that pale, sickly glow. At 1:12 a.m., the elevator opened on our floor. No one stepped out. I know the time because I checked. I don't know why. Something about that moment made me look at the clock. 1:12. The doors stayed open for 10 seconds, then closed. No footsteps, no movement. I shrugged it off. Hospitals are weird at night. At 2:07 a.m., the monitors at the nurses' station glitched. Every patient's vitals flickered. Just for a second, all flat lines, then normal again. We all stared at the screens. "System error," someone muttered, except 417's monitor didn't flicker. It stayed steady, green line pulsing calmly, like it was the only thing unaffected. I avoided his room until I couldn't anymore. Routine vitals, no excuses. When I entered, the temperature hit me again. Too cold. The window was shut, no drafts. I stepped closer to the bed. His eyes were closed, but his head, it was angled slightly toward the door. It hadn't been like that before. I checked positioning every shift. I know how he lies. I felt it then. That prickling sensation, like someone watching you. I turned slowly. The hallway was empty, but the lights were flickering one by one, starting at the far end, moving toward 417. Click, buzz, click, buzz, getting closer. I stepped back into the room. The lights stopped. Silence. Then his monitor changed. Instead of heart rate and oxygen levels, words began scrolling across the screen. Green letters on black. Not medical data, text. "You're staying tonight." My stomach dropped. I slammed the call button for tech support. The screen returned to normal. The hallway lights steadied, everything quiet. When the charge nurse came to check, nothing was wrong. No record of monitor malfunction. No logs, no error reports. Just stable vitals. She looked at me carefully. "You look pale." I didn't argue. At 3:33 a.m., I heard footsteps. Soft, slow, coming from the stairwell. The 4th floor stairwell is rarely used at night. I stepped into the hallway. The sound echoed, one step at a time, getting closer. I stood frozen near 417. The door to the stairwell creaked open, but no one came out. The footsteps continued, except now, they were behind me, inside the hallway. I turned. No one, but I could hear breathing. Not mine. Slower, heavier. Right outside 417. The door to his room slowly swung shut, on its own. Click. I rushed forward and grabbed the handle. It wouldn't budge, like something was holding it from the inside. I pulled harder, my palms sweating. "Open," I whispered. The handle turned slightly, just enough for me to push. When I stepped inside, he was sitting up, perfectly upright, eyes open, looking at me. But his expression wasn't blank anymore. He was smiling, not wide, just subtle, like he knew something I didn't. The monitor behind him was flat, no heartbeat, no pulse, flat line, but he was breathing, slow, deliberate. "You checked on me," he said softly. His voice sounded clearer now, stronger. "You kept me here." What? "You didn't let me leave." The air felt thick, hard to inhale. He tilted his head. "You're taking my shift." The lights went out. Complete darkness, except for the monitor glow. And in that glow, I saw something behind him. A shape, standing, tall, featureless, watching me. And then everything went silent. When the lights came back on, I was on the floor, cold tile against my cheek. The bed was empty, completely empty. No patient, No sheets disturbed, no monitor cables, nothing. Like the room had never been occupied. I stumbled to my feet. The hallway was normal. Nurses at the station, phones ringing, morning shift arriving, sunlight creeping through the windows. I rushed to the nurses' station. "Where's 417? They looked confused. "There is no 417, someone said. I laughed nervously. "Yes, there is. End of the hall." They pulled up the floor plan. Room numbers ended at 416. Where 417 should have been, there was a blank wall. I walked down myself, counting doors: 412, 413, 414, 415, 416, and then wall, solid, painted, no door, no handle, nothing. My chest tightened. I ran back to the station. His chart was gone. No record of him ever existing. No admission, no discharge, nothing. I checked the staffing schedule. My name wasn't listed for that week, or the week before, or any week that month. The charge nurse stared at me. "Are you feeling okay?" I tried to explain. Room 417, the patient, the whisper, the monitor text. But as I spoke, it felt distant, like I was describing a dream. They escorted me to occupational health, concerned looks, soft voices. I remember sitting in a quiet room, fluorescent lights humming overhead, a clipboard in my lap. They asked how long I'd been experiencing confusion. I checked my phone. No employee login apps, no hospital messages, no night shift reminders. My photo ID badge was blank, just my picture. No name, no department. The security guard frowned. "Where did you get this?" They let me leave, said I needed rest, said I shouldn't come back until I felt better. I walked out into the early morning air. The city was waking up, subway rumbling in the distance, sirens faint and far away. I checked my reflection in a parked car window. For a second, it didn't match. The figure in the glass stood straighter than I did, smiling faintly. I blinked. It was normal again. I haven't been able to access my apartment building since that morning. The key doesn't work. The intercom doesn't recognize my name. My phone battery never drops below 41%. Every time I check the time at night, it's 1:12 a.m. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear the steady beep of a monitor. Calm, stable, waiting, because I think I understand now. He wasn't the patient. He was the replacement, and I was the one checking on him, every shift, keeping him there, preventing him from leaving until it was my turn. Sometimes I feel the weight of hospital sheets over my body. Sometimes I smell antiseptic in the air. Sometimes I hear footsteps in a hallway that doesn't exist. And last night, I woke up in darkness, cold, still, unable to move. I could hear voices outside a door. One of them sounded like me, saying, "Vital stable. Have you ever had a dream so real you weren't sure you woke up? Because if you ever find yourself on the 4th floor and you see a door at the end of the hall that wasn't there before, don't check on the patient, just walk away, because someone has to take the night shift." And I think mine never ended. I tried to stay awake. I didn't want to wake up somewhere else. But sleep isn't something you can negotiate with forever. By the 3rd night after everything disappeared, I couldn't fight it anymore. I passed out on the couch in a friend's apartment. At least, I thought it was my friend's apartment. When I opened my eyes, fluorescent lights, buzzing, the steady beep of a cardiac monitor. My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't move at first. I didn't dare. The ceiling above me was white, too white, the kind of white only hospitals use. I tried to sit up. I couldn't. My body felt heavy, pinned. I looked down, hospital gown, IV in my arm, oxygen cannula under my nose. No, 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 no. I forced my head to turn, and that's when I saw it. The door, at the end of the room, numbered 417. My throat went dry. I tried to scream. Nothing came out, only a shallow exhale. The monitor beside me beeped steadily. Heart rate stable, oxygen stable, blood pressure normal, exactly the way I used to chart it, exactly. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Soft, measured, familiar. I knew that rhythm. I used to walk like that during rounds. The door opened slowly. A nurse stepped in. White scrubs, hair tied back, badge clipped to chest. She walked toward me calmly, clipboard in hand. When she reached the foot of the bed, she looked up. It was me. Not distorted, not shadowed, just me, but sharper, healthier, more alert, like I used to be before all this started. She smiled faintly. "Vitals stable," she said softly. My voice, exactly my voice. She adjusted the blanket over my chest, the same way I used to adjust his. Her eyes met mine, and for a split second, they went completely black, like his had. "You kept me here," she whispered, and suddenly I understood. Room 417 was never a location. It was a position, a role. Someone lies in the bed, someone checks the chart, someone maintains the system, and when the system stabilizes, they switch. The lights flickered. The room glitched. For half a second, I saw another layer, like peeling back reality. Behind her, behind the walls, I saw rows of identical rooms, identical beds, identical monitors, each occupied, each with someone staring at the ceiling, waiting. Hundreds of them, maybe more. Different faces, different ages, all silent, all stable, all monitored by versions of themselves. It wasn't a haunting, it was infrastructure, a rotation, a closed loop. She leaned closer. "So don't worry," she said gently. "You won't be here long." The monitor beside me flatlined for one sharp second, then returned to normal. The door clicked shut. Darkness swallowed the room. I woke up again, this time in my friend's apartment, sweating, heart racing, but something was wrong. I could still hear the monitor, faint, distant, beeping, beep, beep, beep. I looked at my arm. There was a faint adhesive mark where an IV would sit. I told myself it was imagination, sleep paralysis, stress. But when I checked my phone, there was a notification. Unknown sender. No number, just text. Shift begins at 1:12 a.m. I checked the time, 1:11 a.m. The lights in the apartment flickered once. My phone screen changed. My lock screen wallpaper, it wasn't my wallpaper anymore. It was a hospital room, white walls, single bed, door labeled 417, and on the bed, someone lying still. I zoomed in. The face was slightly blurred, but I recognized the jawline, the scar above the eyebrow. It was me. The clock changed, 1:12 a.m. The screen went black, and the beeping got louder, closer, not from the phone, from the room, from everywhere. And then, a whisper behind me, soft, right at my ear. "Vitals stable. I haven't slept since, because I don't know which version of me wakes up, the one in the bed, or the one doing rounds. And if I close my eyes too long, I can feel the weight of hospital sheets again, tucked tightly, like someone doesn't want me moving." Have you ever had a moment where reality feels slightly misaligned, like you're half a second behind yourself? If you ever wake up and the room feels too white, check the door. If it says 417, don't open it, because once you start the shift, it doesn't end, and I think mine just restarted. I finally went back. I know that sounds insane, but when something starts rewriting your reality, running doesn't fix it. It just delays it. The beeping never stopped. Even in daylight, even outside, even in crowded places. It was faint, like tinnitus, but it was there. Beep, 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 steady, consistent, like something tracking me. So at 12:48 a.m., I stood outside the hospital entrance again. The building looked normal. Emergency lights glowing red, automatic doors sliding open and closed, ambulance bay quiet, no flickering lights, no distortions, just a hospital. I almost convinced myself none of it was real until I stepped inside. The air felt thicker, colder, too sterile. The front desk was empty, security station empty. The lobby television showed static, not loud, just silent interference. The elevator doors were already open, waiting. I didn't press the button. It was already set to 4. The doors closed. The ride up felt longer than it should have. The digital floor display flickered between numbers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The doors opened. 4th floor. Lights dimmed. Hallway silent. No staff. No patients. No carts. No distant conversations. Just fluorescent buzzing and something else. Breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. Coming from the end of the hall. Room 417. The door was closed, but light spilled from underneath. White. Blinding. I didn't hesitate this time. I pushed it open. The room looked exactly like I remembered. Bed in the center, monitor beside it, vitals stable, beeping. The bed wasn't empty, but it wasn't me either. It was the original patient, the one who never left. Eyes open, staring at the ceiling. He turned his head slowly toward me, and for the first time, he smiled. Not wide, not exaggerated, just relieved. "You came back," he said softly. His voice wasn't distorted anymore. It sounded tired, human. "I was starting to think you wouldn't." I stepped closer to the bed. The monitor didn't change. Still stable, still normal. "What is this?" I whispered. He looked at the door behind me, then back at me. "It's a backlog." My stomach tightened. "A backlog of what?" He blinked slowly. "Unfinished shifts." The overhead lights flickered, and for a second, I saw it again. The layers, behind the walls. Endless rows of identical rooms, each one with a bed. Each bed occupied, each occupant staring up, waiting. "The hospital isn't for healing," he continued calmly. "It's for processing." "Processing what?" He looked at me like I already knew. "People who almost left." My chest tightened. Memories rushed back. That night years ago, the car accident, the icy road, the spinning headlights, the moment everything went quiet, the doctors telling me I was lucky. Lucky. He watched the realization hit me. "You didn't fully wake up," he said gently. "You just transferred." My breathing became shallow. "So I've been here the whole time?" He shook his head slightly. "No, you've been alternating." The monitor beeped louder. The door behind me clicked shut on its own. "The system needs balance," he said. "Someone conscious, someone stable, someone observing. And when one realizes," he smiled again, "they get discharged." The word echoed in my head. Discharged. I looked at the monitor. The heart rate line flickered. For the first time it dipped, just slightly. "What happens to the discharge?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly began to sit up. Movements stiff, mechanical, but deliberate. "I leave," he said simply, "and you stay." The lights above us brightened to an unbearable white. The walls around the room shimmered. The layers became clearer. Hundreds of rooms, thousands maybe, all synchronized, all breathing together, all monitored. I backed away toward the door, but it was gone. Just wall. He stood fully now. The IV lines detached on their own. The monitor beside the bed began to flatline. Not sharply, gradually, like fading out. His eyes locked onto mine. "Don't worry," he whispered. "You won't be alone." The flatline became a continuous tone. The lights exploded into white, and everything went silent. I woke up in my apartment. Morning light through the window, no beeping, no flickering lights, no hospital. Just quiet. I lay there for a long time, waiting for something to feel wrong, but everything felt normal, too normal. I sat up slowly, walked to the bathroom, looked in the mirror. It was me, just me. No delay, no distortion, no second reflection. I laughed, actually laughed. It was over. It had to be. I walked into the living room. My phone was on the coffee table. Screen dark. I picked it up. No notifications. No strange messages. Battery at 100%. Time, 9:03 a.m. I opened my camera absent-mindedly. The front-facing view showed my face clearly, stable, alive. I flipped to the rear camera, pointed it around the room, nothing strange. Then, for a split second, the preview glitched, just a flicker, like a frame skipped. I rewound the recording, paused on the exact moment. The image sharpened. The room looked the same, except in the reflection of the dark TV screen, there was a hospital bed behind me, white sheets, monitor beside it, beeping, and someone lying there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. I zoomed in. The face was blurry, but the jawline, the scar above the eyebrow, it was me. And as I watched, the version in the reflection slowly turned its head and looked directly at the camera. The beeping returned, soft, steady, from somewhere I couldn't locate. I dropped the phone. The screen cracked, but the reflection on the black TV glass remained. I stepped closer to it. The hospital room reflection didn't move with me. It stayed, fixed, like it was deeper than the glass. And the me in the bed smiled, then mouthed two words: shift change. The lights in my apartment flickered once. When they stabilized, the reflection showed an empty bed. Vitals stable. Beep, beep, beep. I haven't slept since that morning, because I don't know which side I'm on anymore. The apartment feels slightly staged, like a waiting room. And sometimes, when I pass a dark window, my reflection looks half a second ahead. If you've ever woken up feeling like you didn't fully return, like part of you is still somewhere else, you might already be in rotation. And if you ever hear a monitor beeping with no source, check your vitals. They might already be stable. Have you ever felt like you switched places with yourself for a moment? Because if you have, you might just be covering someone else's shift. And trust me, no one leaves room 417 permanently. They just trade.